I'll go through the meaning quickly, inshallah, try and focus on it when the recitation, when the Quran is being recited. We start, so remember me, I will remember you, and be grateful to me and do not deny me. O you who have believed, seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. And do not say about those who are killed in the way of Allah, they are dead. Rather, they are alive, but you perceive it not. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient, who, when disaster strikes them, say, indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Those are the ones upon whom are blessings from their Lord and mercy, and it is those who are the rightly guided. Subhanallah. MashaAllah, our guests are an embodiment of this verses of the Quran. May Allah Ta'ala make us among the Sabirin, like they are the Sabirin. Verily, they are the rightly guided as well. They are from the Muhtadun. May Allah Ta'ala make us from the Muhtadun as well. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كما أرسلنا فيكم رسولا منكم يتلو عليكم آياتنا ويزكيكم ويعلمكم الكتاب والحكمة ويعلمكم ما لم تكونوا تعلمون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات، بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Just another verse from the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. It's more encouragement. Encouragement for brothers in Palestine, for us as well. The end of the verse, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت عليها ما اكتسبت. So the meaning of this beautiful verse, look, Alhamdulillah, we have in our midst people who are an embodiment of these verses. We can read this, قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة أولئك هم المهتدون. We have amongst us people who go through this in the dua. The dua that comes from the heart, mashallah. Taqabbal Allah. Verily, Allah does not charge a soul except that within its capacity it will have the consequence of what it has gained, and it will bear the consequence of what evil it has earned. Our Lord, do not impose blame upon us if we have forgotten or erred. Our Lord, and lay not upon us a burden like that which you laid upon those before us. Our Lord, and burden us not with that which have no ability to bear, and pardon us and forgive us and have mercy upon us. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين صدق الله العظيم.
MashaAllah. Really the two ayats that our Hafiz read. I remember back in the day, my Ustad Marhum Hafiz Abdul Rahman used to say, read these. There'll come a time where it'll be very popular. And Alhamdulillah, of course, in every home today, we see people reciting the Surah Baqarah in the mornings and, getting to understand the meanings of this beautiful recitation. But as recited, and we only ask Allah to give us what we can handle and to elevate our families in Palestine, inshallah. So I'm going to start the program, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina wa Shafiyana Maulana Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum. I take this opportunity on behalf of the Benoni Ladies Forum, our media partners at Salam Media, and the host of this beautiful venue, Brother Muhammad at Spur, to thank them for this lovely evening. But without further ado, I'm not going to take up much of your times because I've got lots lined up for you before Sister Yumna comes up. I've got to also introduce one of my esteemed colleagues as well. I was going through the media and having to see the snippets that came through with regard to the wonderful interviews that were, done by our local media, like media partners, or the like the radio stations and the TV stations as well. And really, it was something just amazing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a history. Sister Yumna is such a remarkable person that Allah has blessed her with so much of courage, and a husband and a family, that she's a mother of 4, and her eldest son is 13 years old. And can you imagine what they have to go through to have to really, to endure these type of pressures? And imagine we get a little bit of a little earthquake that takes place here. We up in arms and we worry about everybody around us, or the neighbors, or the families. But she's been interviewed on a few radio stations. On the 22nd of Thursday, Siabonga Sitole, wrote such a fantastic article on the Star, the Pretoria News, that really touched my heart. And really, there's much more. Then on the same day as well, she had a live interview with Clement Manyatela, and of course on 702. So the message is out there telling us, getting the people to know what's happening in the land, that our families are being oppressed. And, many journalists have lost their lives. We talk of the people that want to do a lot of work, the doctors, the social workers, the medics, and all this type of things that went there to do certain works have never come back. So nobody has actually told us the real story of what's happening, but we have, and we are blessed today that we have Sister Yumna. Alhamdulillah. She set the record right, that the events in Gaza did not start on October 7th. It started a decade ago. And let me tell you one thing about her, the fantastic work that she does. When she does this type of work, she wears a jacket, a bulletproof jacket that we call it here. That's 13 kilos. And if you see her to carry that and run around and to give us all this information, it's amazing. And this is really blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, of course, we're going to let her speak and tell us about it. But again, I'm going to introduce one of my very good esteemed friends. And again, on behalf of the Benoni's Ladies Forum, we're going to be having an auction a little later, where we're going to auction a cake. You can purchase some of the memorabilia, some lovely cupcakes. Also visit the Salam Media stand. And of course, certain proceeds of the items that you've spent here will also go towards Palestine, inshallah. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce a very good friend of mine, a man that's close to my heart, who's been on the, he's actually a journalist that has done such fantastic work. I've worked with him tirelessly in many places, in many years that I've known. He's going back over 35 years. And my beloved brother, Inayat Hussein Wadi, I'd like to introduce him, and a round of applause for him as well. So he's so humble that he says it's only 24 years, not 35. Shiraz, you're exaggerating, but I know back in the day, he's done much more with that. And, he presents these type of shows on Salam Media. You can listen to these type of things. If you want to get further information with regard to that, have a chat with him. But, he's a radio presenter appearing in multiple media platforms, not only on this type of thing, he goes to certain conferences, and his passion about Palestine is something that's remarkable, something that I can't even explain. I remember the times that we stood out there, and when we did some work together with the marchers, he stood in the front line. So I'm not going to say much about him, but I'm going to tell you that this man has really worked tirelessly to keep us informed with the messages out here, with the journalism skills that he have. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Brother Inayat Haji, Inayat Wadi. Assalamu alaikum, ahlan wa sahlan, wa marhaban bikum, welcome. Also a man that's from Salam Media. Of course, he'll be sort of keeping us informed as to what's happening and introducing our guest as well.
Jazakallah khairan so much, Shiraz. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just on behalf of Salam Media, I want to thank the BLF, to Amina Baba and your entire team for accommodating us on this particular project. And this is the media tour with Yumna Al Said. Now, it's been quite a journey for us until now in the company of Yumna Al Said. And just listening to what Hafiz Farzin had to recite in his qira'ah, where he spoke about the test of human beings, where you're being tested with everything, with your life, with your produce, with your children, with your health, with your sickness. And in this modern era, no other nation has been tested in the manner that the Palestinian nation has been tested. And you will hear from Sister Yumna, and this is going to be a first-hand account. Now, where we stand at this point in time, it's 11 months, while many of us have been witnessing this horror, this outrage, this carnage, and we've witnessed it with mixed feelings, with sadness, with anger, and we've seen this untold brutality and the genocide that is unfolding before our very own eyes. And the facts are apparent to us. It's open. It's indisputable. It is blatant and it is open for all of us to see. We see the dehumanizing conditions of the people of Palestine. We see the persecution. We see how they are being broken down psychologically, mentally, being terrorized, massacring them as a matter of policy. And this, the Zionists and the oppressors have made no secret of their genocidal intent. There have been few evils that we've witnessed in the last century, and this stands out because we are talking about mass extermination of an entire population. Now, brothers and sisters, the question arises: how can the world allow the unleashing of such terror and such horror in the most brutal form? How do we navigate through this genocide? How do we respond to the attempts to conceal these crimes against humanity? And we've seen it killing hundreds of people, journalists, eliminating witnesses. And yesterday, just yesterday, we've seen another journalist being martyred. As we speak right now, the last functioning hospital in Gaza, people have been told to evacuate. As we speak right now, Palestinians have been moved from place to place. 1.9 million people occupying 10% of Gaza as we speak right now. And I know since October the 7th, since this genocide had started, we were all up there, we were marching, we were demonstrating, we were doing everything. But we know fatigue does creep in. Fatigue creeps in both from a media perspective as well, and where we see a lot of media not even reporting on what is taking place in Gaza. But for us at Salam Media, we have made this intention, and our intention is clear. We've made this conscious decision that we will continue. We will continue regardless. We will continue relentlessly. And that is why we have found the synergy in this project with this media and journalism tour was Yumna Al Said. And brothers and sisters, we have barely scratched the surface. What we witness, what we see on our television screens, what we see being reported in the newspaper is just the tip of the iceberg. And when Yumna Al Said takes this platform, you will understand, you will get to grips with a distinctive difference of viewing content via social media and other forms of media in comparison to what Yumna Al Said is going to convey to us. And this is right from the front line of the genocide that is taking place. But also, brothers and sisters, we need to remind ourselves that this genocide in Gaza is not only about the brutality that is unleashed by the Zionist military. It is not only restricted to food and shelter. It is not only restricted to death and disease. It is a warfare of information. It's a media war. It's a war of narratives. It's a war of lies and deception. It's a war of dehumanization by denying the humanity of the people of Palestine. And it is a war that the mainstream media and the corporate media use to justify brutality and violence against them. It is also a war of manufacturing consent, and this is through manipulation, through public manipulation to evoke emotions, to sway emotions, and to influence the narratives. This is why Salam Media has embraced this project. This is the reason why we have invited Yumna Al Said, and we are honored, Yumna, to have you here in South Africa. This is my area. This is Benoni. This is where I live, and these are all my people. We welcome you. And also, for many of you who have been following Yumna Al Said, and by now you have some idea as to who Yumna is. You have seen her on your TV screens. You have seen her in front of the camera. But I want to assure you, brothers and sisters, after having traveled and spent some time with Yumna in the last few days, apart from just being an internationally acclaimed journalist and award-winning journalist as well, I, for one, have truly understood why humanized coverage of Gaza is so important. We have learned, and I have learned, how incredibly courageous Yumna Al Said is, and also the other Palestinian journalists who are on the ground in Gaza. They are the shining lights, and they have been throughout this entire genocide. They have been reporting on the realities live. They have paid the ultimate price at a huge cost to them and also to their loved ones. They have made such sacrifices we will never ever fathom. We can never ever imagine what sacrifices Yumna and her colleagues have actually done. And this is why Salam Media, where we have laid this foundation of humanitarian journalism in this country, once again, tonight, right here in Benoni, I am certain there is a lot that you will be learning. There will be a lot that you will be taking away from Yumna Al Said. And not only through her reporting, but also to Yumna as a person, a humble person, a sincere person, a person who speaks truth to power, who is the voice of her people, a voice for the voiceless. She has chosen this path. She has embarked on this mission that no other journalist has done. And we are hopeful that with this particular media tour, we will continue in our support for Palestine until we see true liberation in our lifetime, inshallah. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Yumna, without much ado, my sister, really an absolute pleasure to welcome you once again.
Walaikum assalam. How are you? Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be among you all here in Benoni, I guess. Yes, Benoni. And it's been wonderful so far in South Africa. It's one of the most dearest places to my heart. And the people are really amazing and really friendly and kind. So thank you all for all your kindness and beautiful emotions. Today, I toured the entire South Africa from city to city and place to place to speak about Gaza like I do everywhere else around the world. I know you've been watching what's happening in Gaza for the past 11 months now, 326 days. The bombardments haven't stopped for one day. But I can assure you that what's happening in Gaza that you watch on your screens, on your TVs, on your mobile phones, does not even reflect half of the true reality that the people in Gaza are living every single moment of every single day. Because you don't live that feeling of horror and terror that people in Gaza live, that the children feel when they hear that Israeli missile flying towards their neighborhoods to hit a house. Those terrifying moments when kids run to their mothers, screaming because they're afraid, they're terrified. Or they sit under, well, that was before we all moved to the tents. It was usually the kitchen bar that was the safest place to hide. That was the place that I usually hid my children in, because it was the only place that could be far away from windows, and if something would fall, at least they might be protected. But even that privilege was lost when Palestinians were kicked out of their homes and had to live from tent to another. Those thin canvas tents or thin plastic tents that are extremely hot in the mornings because they suck all the heat and all the sun, like greenhouses where we plant. And at night, they're very cold in the winters. Every time it rained, I used to feel so raged. When I evacuated to Egypt, every time it rained in Gaza, I was so raged. And my therapist was telling me, she was always asking me, why are you raged? The rain is a natural thing. It's nature. It's a gift of God. You should be very happy. People pray for the rain. And I just felt she doesn't understand. She doesn't know how much suffering people endure when it rains on them, when their tents sink in the water, when their thin mattresses and blankets are wet, when those vulnerable bodies of children are cold and their clothes are all wet and they don't even have an alternative to change into, when the grounds of the tents turn to mud and they get so muddy and wet and dirty and cold, and they have no option but to wait until it ends, but to wait until they dry. So they get sick just waiting. That's why I was raged. Because when you watch it on TV, it's not like when you live it. When you watch it on TV, you don't touch it, you don't go through it, and you don't feel it. I know that many people around the world watch these videos and they cry and their hearts ache so much that many have chosen to stop watching because they can't take it anymore. But we don't even have that privilege. People in Gaza are tired. They're mentally and physically tired. When they're told to move out from their places, from their tents, because they have moved out dozens of times, they refuse to. And they simply say, it's fine. If they want to hit us, they can hit us. They're tired of moving or searching for a place that could be safe, because they know that they will be kicked out of that place again. The humiliation and dehumanization of the Israeli army towards the Palestinian people did not break their will. It did not break their will. It did not break their patience or their resistance. But they're human beings. They are tired. They're beyond tired. And it's not only that. It's every other detail. It's the injuries of these missiles and bombs that hit Gaza. 90% of Gaza, you hear of all the reports that you see that Gaza has been hit by more than 2 nuclear bombs. Over 2 nuclear bombs are the amount of bombs that were dropped on Gaza. 90% of Gaza has been completely wiped off. Completely. There are no more roads in Gaza. There are no more homes. There are no more schools or hospitals. All the neighborhoods that we lived in, that we walked in, our homes, our children's schools, the universities, everything has been completely destroyed. And they take pleasure in their destruction, and they feel proud. And we just, as Palestinians, look at each other and say, we will rebuild. It doesn't matter. It's just a pile of stone. But it really hurts a lot. Because our homes are not just walls, they're not just piles of stone. We say that as a form of resistance. We say that as a form of not being broken, because we can't afford to be broken. We say that to give ourselves hope in this life, that we're still alive, that we can still have a tomorrow. Each one's home. My home was destroyed in November, and my first home was destroyed in the first week of the war in October. And until today, when I remember them, my eyes tear alone, and my heart hurts. And it's not because of the walls, it's because of all those details, because of everything that we lived as a family in this home. Because every time you go to buy something to place on that table, that vase of flower, that chair, that blanket, that portrait, everything that you put in that home has a meaning. It has a memory. Sitting in the sitting room together with your family in front of your TV or just chatting at night, all those beautiful moments, and even the sad ones, even the days when you were sick, everything counts. And no matter how much homes we will have, we will never get over or recover from seeing our homes and all our years, all our effort, all our time that we spent just go like that in a blink of an eye for no reason. except that we are Palestinian. What really breaks my heart and makes me, I can't calm myself down. The fact that this entire world is just so silent about all these war crimes being committed against the Palestinians in Gaza. There's not one thing of all the brutality that was caused by the Israeli army towards the Palestinians that made this world, the governments of this world, the leaders of this world stand and say, that's enough. We have to protect humanity. We have to end this genocide. Hospitals in Gaza were targeted. They were sieged. The patients in them were under siege for days with no food, with no water, without medication, and without allowing the doctors to take care of the patients. At the Shifa hospital, when it was sieged, the first thing the Israeli army did was blow up the sole oxygen plant in a Shifa hospital. And then it blew up the generators at the same time. You know what that did? It risked the lives of all the patients in the ICU units, and they didn't care. 41 premature babies in the incubators were at the risk of losing their life at any moment because of the loss of oxygen and heat in their incubators. 6 of them died right away in less than 3 days. At Nasr Children's Hospital in Gaza City, people took shelter in the yards and corridors of the hospital. And doctors were there with their nurses, and the patients were in the hospital, and it's a children's hospital, only a children's hospital. It had incubators. It stayed under siege. All the patients, children patients, were forced to get out of hospital in their conditions, in their dire conditions. The families and the doctors. You know what happened to the premature babies in a Nasr medical hospital? The one in Gaza City, not Nasr? Their bodies decomposed in the incubators they were in. They were left to die and decompose because the Israeli army, when he chased the people out of the hospital, he left them to die. Because they have no mercy in their hearts. They left them to die because they're Palestinian children. And to them, Palestinian children need to die because they're children of darkness. Hind Rajab was 6 years old. Her mother, brother, and father had to move to the south. And then the south and the north, the passage between them was closed. No one was able to come from the south, go back from the south to the north, or come from the north to the south. Israel, time after time after time, called people to evacuate from the south, from the north to the south. And every single time they evacuated, they killed a number of civilians. Every single time I stood out there reporting about the civilians that were tank shelled or killed while they were crossing at Salah ad-Din Street or Al-Kuwait Square. And yet they kept on calling people to evacuate. When Hind's uncle, his wife, and her cousins were trying to make it to the south in their car, they were all shot. Layan, who was Hind's cousin and older than her, called the Red Crescent. She was shot and bleeding and speaking to the Red Crescent to tell them about where she was. While she was speaking to them, she was shot again and killed. Hind stayed with 6 family members in her car for over 12 hours while she was bleeding and they were all killed. She sat for 12 hours in a car with 6 bodies of her family killed in front of her. Can you imagine that horror that this little girl had to live? Can you imagine the amount of terror that she had to go through as a little girl, 6 years old? Two days later, when the Israeli army, 2 days later, allowed an ambulance to move from the south to Gaza City to fetch Layan because she's the only one left alive and she's bleeding. Contact was completely lost with the 2 paramedics in the ambulance, and of course with Hind. When the army withdrew from that area and people went to see, they found Hind killed. She was shot in different areas of her body. They found the ambulance that went to fetch Layan hit by a tank shell and bullets. So they didn't just kill them. They killed them in the most brutal way. There was a coordination between the Red Crescent, the Red Cross, and the Israeli army to get Layan. And yet, they approved this and they killed them. 355 bullets were shot on Layan's family and her car and Layan. 7 people in that car were killed by 355 bullets. And yet, with evidence, with proof, and with facts, the entire world stood to watch silently. They had nothing to say. So now they come back even after this happened and they tell you the brutal attack on 7th of October. 7th of October was the first reaction by the Palestinians towards all the atrocities committed by the Israelis. Before the 7th of October, for the past 17 years, Gaza was under a long-lasting Israeli siege that the entire world kept silent about. We had restrictions of movement like the rest of the world. We couldn't make a plan for a vacation, even if we had the financial means to. We couldn't go out to study, even if we had scholarships, because we were not permitted. Our children died of cancer because we have no cancer treatment or hospital in Gaza. And they were declined a permit for treatment in the occupied East Jerusalem or occupied West Bank by Israel. And those children that were lucky, they did not allow their parents to go with them because their ages, the ages of their parents are under 50 or 60. The age was 50 at first, and then they rose it to 60 just to make us more miserable. So before 60 years, no Palestinian from Gaza can ever cross to East Jerusalem or to the West Bank. I have never seen Al-Aqsa Mosque. And until I'm 60 years old, I'm never permitted to see it. And so is every single person in Gaza. And even if they're 60 in Gaza, they have other excuses. You're affiliated to Hamas, or you're affiliated to this or that Palestinian group. Before the 7th of October, over 300 kinds of materials were not permitted entering Gaza, including X-ray machines. The X-ray machines that we have in Gaza are before 2007. So every time they're defected or spoiled, we just have to fix them because we can't get an alternative. Every single year, twice or thrice a year, doctors and paramedics and medical staff in Gaza protested at the Erez crossing because they want to let in medical equipment, medical tools, medications that are necessary for the population in Gaza, and they wouldn't allow them. Israel's only excuse is that they could be dual use, which means that they are for civilian use, but by chance could be used in military use. This was all before the 7th of October. In 2014, I got into Gaza and I was pregnant with my 5-year-old child. 5 months, pregnant with my third child. And I dreamt, hoped, wished, like any young girl, that I would go back to Cairo and give birth among my family when I'm due. The first time I got a permit to travel back to see my family was in 2016, July 2016. My child that I planned to give birth to among my family was already over 2 years old. But all this was not enough. All this was not enough. The ongoing genocide now, make sure to know that it has been unprecedented since World War II. The brutality and the slaughter of the children in Gaza has never been precedented before. Even the Nazis weren't as brutal to the Jews as the Israelis are brutal to the Palestinians. And make no mistake, this is an occupation. It's an ethnic cleansing. It's a slaughter to our young generation. It's not a self-defense. Every single day, I watch children crying for their parents because there are only survivors in Gaza. When I was in Gaza, there were over 17,000 children that were only survivors, with no mother, with no father, with no brothers or sisters. And now over 7 months have passed. Can you imagine how much that number has doubled? Tripled? The kind of injuries that you see in Gaza's hospital are the most among children and women. And there are mostly two kinds of injuries, unfortunately. Third-degree burns from 70 to 90% of the body that there are no medications for in Gaza, and the shrapnel from those rockets and missiles that explode because they use a certain kind of missiles that is full of shrapnel, just like the bullets they use. The bullets that the Israeli army uses with civilians in Gaza are called butterfly bullets. So they're not like the normal bullet that you see or know of. These bullets explode inside the human's body. And they only explode when they hit the human's body and they go deep inside. And that's why if they hit the human being in a sensitive area, they can never survive, while in other bullets they can. And if they hit them in one of their limbs, they get amputated right away. And that's why before the 7th of October, half of the population's legs were amputated because of the Great March of Return, where they used to shoot unarmed civilians away from the fence, 300 meters at least, because they kill for the joy of killing. And the fact that even when humanitarian aid was entering, medical aid was entering, imagine at such a time when medical aid was entering, they sent corona testing kits in that medical aid. It just shows you how humiliating these governments are. They're sending corona testing kits to hospitals that are under genocide. They sent the protective corona costumes. The kids were wearing them and playing with them in Gaza. The doctors gave them to cheer them up. You ask yourself, where has all the humanity vanished in this world? And I know that so many people are supportive. So many people feel helpless, like I do. I feel so helpless, especially witnessing all this, especially living through all this. And that's why I'm talking about Gaza everywhere, because I don't want people to just watch it on their screens and feel a little bit bad and then feel numbed about what's happening. It's still ongoing. You need to continue your struggle, because if you struggle for Gaza, you're struggling for humanity. And if you give up on Gaza, you're giving up on humanity. Because the genocide in Gaza is not just about the people. It's on every sense of humanity, every basic right of every human being. It's a genocide towards freedom of speech, and we've seen that. We've seen that with international journalists who were deprived of their right to enter Gaza and to cover what's happening. Every single detail I remember about Gaza, it's just too hard. It's just too hard to process. And I don't feel I even do it justice, no matter how much I speak about it. But I'm just trying to reflect to you some of the reality that you might not know or you may not feel, because those screens are protecting you from all that pain, all that horror that the people in Gaza are living. And this has been going on for the past 75 years. It was just not going on in this rapid manner. It was not just going on this clear, but it was going on. If you look at the map of Palestine now, you will know that it has been going on for 75 years. Look at the map of Palestine 75 years ago and look at it now. Every land in Palestine is being confiscated. Every olive tree is being cut. Water sources are being stolen. Homes are being demolished. Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem. Israel is the only country in the world that has a military court for Palestinian children. Children under 16 years old. And yet, the world has known all this and has been complicit about this. So when 7th of October happens, and it's the first reaction, the entire world turns around, wakes up, and wants to highlight the atrocity of the Palestinians towards the Israelis. When Israel investigates what happened in the 7th of October and proves that the Hannibal operative was used by the Israeli army, which says to kill all, enemy and your own. That is the Hannibal operative that Israel has been using since the 7th of October. And yet, these two investigations that prove that were only Israeli investigations. No international investigation, not one international organization had the courage and integrity to conduct such investigations. This struggle is real. This struggle is long. And this struggle needs a lot of every single person, every man and every woman and every child. No matter what your profession is, you need to help us to revive the heritage of Palestine. Do not make Palestine forgotten like they plan to for years and years, decades and decades. We Palestinians have not forgotten Palestine, because every single Palestinian child will tell you, I want to go back. Everything that I talked to you about, my children went through. personally. 1 week after we evacuated to Egypt, I asked my 5-year-old Juju, what's the most thing that you desire? She told me to go back to Gaza. And I told her, Mommy, you want to go back to Gaza? Where the bombs are? Where you were afraid? Where you were hungry? Where there was no water? Where you were thirsty? Where you were feeling cold? She said, yes, I've rested. 1 week is enough. Let's go back to Gaza. And she is just 5 years old. And I know she's so sincere because her eyes were tearing. She told me, I don't want to live here. I want to live in Gaza. She thinks that 1 week is just enough for her to rest. And I said, the war hasn't ended. You still want to go back? She said, yes, I want to go back. I'm not exaggerating when I say they have never been able to rub away the memory, the beautiful memory of Palestine, whether it's Gaza, whether it's the West Bank, whether it's East Jerusalem or Jerusalem, from our memories, from our children's memories, by all the brutality and violence that they subjected us to and imposed on us in these places. They have not been able to. And now we need the people around the world to continue reviving that heritage. You need to teach your children, the new generations, about Palestine. They need to learn about it. They need to know the cities of Palestine, the heritage of Palestine, what the kufiya resembles, why we tie the kufiya this way. I was just telling Uncle Inayat when he asked me, Yumna, why do you tie your kufiya like this? It's different from the way we tie it. And I said, because this is how we resist. We put the kufiya like this to cover our noses from the smoke when they fire us with tear gas, when we throw stones on them. And because we want to hide our faces because we don't want them to know us. So this is the way we tie our kufiya. Show them the embroidery of Palestine that they claimed is theirs. Tell them that hummus and falafel are Palestinian food and not Israeli food. Tell them that olive is our plant. Teach them the cities of Palestine with their Arabic names, with their Palestinian names and not their Hebrew names. Tell them it's called Gaza, it's called Ramallah, it's called Al-Quds, it's called Haifa and Yafa. Not those names that they named them. And inshallah, we still believe in hope. We still believe in Allah. We will continue to believe in Allah because honestly, for Palestinians, this is the only thing that is still keeping us alive until today. It's still keeping us smiling despite everything that we've gone through. Because we believe in Allah. We believe that this is our fate. And at the end, we shall win. Allah.
You know, Sister Yumna, I have no words. I'm standing here and the tears are rolling down my eyes to think what you guys have been through. So Allah Ta'ala protect them, give them afiyah, and give Palestine victory, inshallah. Ameen, Allahumma ameen. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
Jazakallah, Brother Shiraz. Well, first-hand account, and really, if this doesn't strike a chord, if this doesn't hit you deep like an arrow in your heart, And this is the reason why Sister Yumna is saying the struggle must continue. And it's not only about us, it's about future generations here as well. What we will do for 15 minutes is we're going to be taking some questions. Sister Yumna has agreed that she will take a few questions for around 15 minutes, and thereafter we'll have the auction. So please, if anybody has got any questions, we've only got limited time, 15 minutes. Please raise your hands and try and keep your questions as short as possible. Okay, all right. I'm going to come there. Shiraz, just go with the mic over there, please.
Who's got a question?
Sister Yumna. Huh?
Okay.
Sister, can you hear me now? Sister Yumna, thank you for a very heartwarming talk.
I can't see.
We totally and completely empathize. We totally and completely empathize with the Palestinians. We feel for them with our hearts. But you're so right. We can never feel the way you do. We are not there. We're not going to go through that. Just slight deviation from what you said. Assuming the Philadelphia crossing from Rafah to Egypt opens, that is still does not end the story of Palestine. The story of Palestine began in 1917. All of Israel has stolen Palestine. Palestine belongs to the Palestinians. We are afraid. We are filled with such fear. Will the time come when Israel will be able to depopulate not only Gaza and the West Bank, but Palestine, Jerusalem, all of it? We just hope that you will continue with the courage, the spirit, and absolute faith in what you're doing and get back that Palestine that we all wish for. Thank you very much.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Shukran. Anybody else with a question? You want to reply to that, Sister Yumna? Anything you want to comment to that, Sister Yumna?
I just want to say that I hope that the day doesn't come when we witness Al-Aqsa Mosque being destroyed for the temple, the Jewish temple, to be revealed. Because I believe that Al-Aqsa is not only for the Palestinians, and not only the Palestinians should be defending it. It's for all Muslims. And if you're not going to stand out, you're not going to defend Al-Aqsa, then we might not just be able to do it alone.
All right. Do we have any more questions?
Well, if we don't have any more questions, what we're going to do now is we're going to proceed with the auction.
That's right.
I see our auctioneer is here as well. Sorry, I've just got one question that's come up here. How did Sister Yumna manage to leave Gaza?
Okay. So when the border was still open, the Rafah border was still open, some Palestinians were able to leave Gaza through paying an amount of money and escaping to Egypt. Those people who had dual nationalities of international countries like the States, Canada, Britain, and other strong countries, they were able to evacuate them at the first week of the war, actually. So those already had left. But then the Palestinians, like me and other people, we had to pay to come out of Gaza. and they were different amounts. There were so many brokers. There were so many amounts that were asked. But I can tell you that the minimum amount was 5,000 per person, $5,000 per person. And from 0 to 16, it was 2,500. Those were the least prices. If you were restricted by Israel from crossing the Rafah border, then you had to pay more. Some people paid up to $20,000 for them alone to cross. I was lucky, alhamdulillah, I only paid $20,000 for all my family. So even though you would look at it, how is that? We look at it that we're lucky because he paid 20,000 alone and I paid 20,000 for 6 people. So we always have this, wow, alhamdulillah, we're so much luckier.
Alhamdulillah.
Sister Yumna, I've just got a message that somebody's passed me through their phone. It's not related to current events, but do you have any news on Ahmed Manasra?
Ahmed Manasra, until today, is still in Israeli jail. He's in sole confinement, which means that nobody sees Ahmed Manasra. He has been like that for many, many years, unfortunately. His mental condition and physical condition are really bad. After the 7th of October war started, Israel, all the prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners that were they were already over 5,000 Palestinian prisoners in the Israeli prisons. Since 7th of October, they have been completely without trial. They don't go to their court trials. They don't get any visits from their families. They have been deprived of all their legitimate rights as prisoners. And unfortunately, Ahmed Manasra also had more than one court hearing that he was not allowed to go to the court for, and he just stays the way he is. There's no development whatsoever on his condition.
All right, we have another question here by Hafsa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for your inspiring talk. I've been meaning to ask this. We see on videos and that, mashallah, it's amazing. We see you going through so much difficulty. And then we hear the words, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, ni'mal mawla wa ni'mal nasir. Tawakkaltu ala Allah. Now, this is just because you are somebody with first-hand experience. What is the source of your tawakkul? What is the source of your taqwa? MashaAllah, Allah accept. It is really impressive. It is something that's really inspiring, not only to Muslims, but non-Muslims as well. I think you've seen it. Just from your experience, what would you say is the source of this? Jazakallah khair.
So, for Palestinians, we've been going through this struggle for the past 75 years. And everyone has been silent about our struggle. It's been difficulty after difficulty, struggle after struggle, torture after torture. As a human being, you would get mad, you would lose your mind, your senses, if you did not have that faith that this is your fate. You did not believe that this is your fate. And in the hereafter, every single child that dies in Palestine, we feel happy for. We say, now he's in paradise. Now he's in al-Firdaus al-A'la. We're not upset for them. Every single child until today. And if we did not believe this, like for eternity in our hearts, completely with our hearts and minds, we wouldn't have been able to survive until now. So this is our only source of strength. How can we give it up? It's the only source of strength. We have to build it over and over and over. We were ready. Each and every person in Palestine is ready to lose their loved ones in any moment. I went out to the field, and every single time I just used to say, Ya Allah, if my children still have time in this life, keep them alive. If not, take them to you. I just didn't want them to feel pain. And that's every single mother and father in Gaza, in Palestine. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go on until now. We wouldn't be able to smile until now. If you look at the losses of every Palestinian, human loss, material loss, mental loss, physical loss, our losses are uncountable. And when I look at my years in the past, sometimes I just think about it and I say, Ya Allah, I'm 36 years old and I've been living 36 years of struggle. Because a Palestinian child is born with a spoon of struggle in their mouth. My child, my eldest, just turned 13. She has been living for 13 years in siege. I hope you got my feelings and my point. Thank you.
Shukran, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, Sister Yumna. What we will do now, I think, is we're going to head for the auction. Okay. And perhaps you can have a cup of coffee. You can relax as well. I know your love for coffee. Yes, I'm sure you deserve a good cup. Okay. Shiraz, I'm going to hand over
MashaAllah.
to you.
Yeah,
And,
I just
our
want to say
auctioneer.
that such a wonderful, inspiring speech. And you can see from what she's mentioned in a nutshell, it's called Yaqeen. So Allah bless her for having this, and all our people elevate them in Palestine, that they get victory, immense victory very rapidly, inshallah. We make sincere dua for that. You know, there's a thing that was mentioned to me some time back. So I've been to one of the war-torn countries, and they said begging is forbidden in Islam, but they will beg to Allah, who will send people like you. And when I asked the guy why, you said you South Africans. So the message out there is for you to dig deep into your pocket. Really today, you know, you spend a cent in Allah's way, is great reward in Akhirah. Because we believe, and like the sister mentioned, that's the yaqeen, the ta'alluq, the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe in the unseen. We believe in Allah Rabbul Izzat. We believe in the fact that, you know, when like you say, you know, you work for a boss, you do something good for him, you're going to get greatly rewarded. Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Allah is Malik. Allah is the master of the universes. So when you do something that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives back in return. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but sometime in whatever life that Allah gives us. Now, if you listen to what the subject that she spoke about is really from the heart, that, you know, I stood here, I really broke down. I've been to many countries, and I've been to one where I saw a lot of atrocities, and I really, it just reminded me a lot of that. So inshallah, we make sincere dua that Allah really give them great victory. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. From there, I mean, Allah will give afia. Allah protect. Thank you, Sister Yumna. We're going to bring the young man who's going to be doing the auction for us today. We've got a lovely frame. We've got a cake. We've got various stuffs that we're going to want you to dig deep into your pocket. It's for a good cause. And of course, like we say, when you support this cause, there's immense, great reward in this. And let's do this for the love of Allah. And let's do what He's going to do to support our families out there. If you heard those little children that are going through so much of hardship, I mean, our little child falls, he's already covered, he's got a plaster, he's taken to the best doctor or the physician. They don't have these things. And if you see that Palestine is 90% almost gone. Allah protect, Allah protect, Allah protect. Brother Ismail, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So you're going to be doing the auction for the frame right now, right?
We decided we're going to start with the smaller items
Okay,
first,
fantastic.
and then we're going to end off with the watch and the frame, inshallah.
Okay. One more thing I want to make mention that these are the lovely sisters from the Benoni Ladies Forum. They really have worked tirelessly to bring this this little function together where it is for a good purpose, and Allah really bless them. Take good work from them and grow this organization for many years to come, inshallah. Amin, Allahumma amin. Thank you to you, lovely sisters. Really, I've seen you work in many events in the area, and it all comes from our area, Benoni, alhamdulillah. Yeah, Allah bless them. All right, Brother Ismail, you may continue, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ismail Lahe Bok, and I will be the auctioneer for tonight. Please, my job is to take as much funds out of your pocket as possible. So please bear with me, inshallah. So there's few items that are going on auction tonight. We're going to start with the smaller items. So in front of me here, we have a Astroplex complimentary match voucher. So it's for a quote for a game for 6 people. You can choose. There's 6-a-side football, netball, action cricket, and volleyball. So we're going to auction off this voucher that's here. Bismillah, let's go with it. Where do we go? Who says, what about 200 Rand to start on this voucher? 200 Rand, what about 200 and 100, Jazakallah. Is there a bid? 200, Jazakallah. 200, what about 250? I get it. 200, now make it 250. I get it. 200, now make it 250. 200 Rand in the front, now make it 250. I get it. 200, what about 250? I get it. 250, now make it 3. 250 is against you, now make it 3. I get it. 3, what about 350? What happened, Ridwan? 300 and what about 350? I get it. 300, now make it 350. I get it. 350, what about 4? I'm going to take the bid from 350, now make it 4. I get it. 350, what about 4? I get it. 350, now make it 4. I get it. 350, what about 4? 350 Rand, what about 4? I get it. 350, now make it 4. I get it. 350, what about 4? 350, are we all are then done? $350, what about 4? I get it. 350, now make it 4. I get it. 350, what about 4? I get it. 4, now make it 5. 400 Rand, what about 450? I get a 400, now make it 450. I get a 400, what about 450? 400 is against your person who you got a bid from. 400, now make it 450. I get a 400, what about 450? I get a 400 on my left, now make it 450. 400 Rand, what about 450? I get a 400, now make it 450. I get a 400, what about 450? I get a 400, now we all are in done. Last and final call at 450 Rand. Run 450.
All right, has that been sold at 450 Rand? MashaAllah. The next one. The next one.
He's got another voucher with him.
Yeah. I don't know what's here. Let me just check it. Oh wait, I have to give you one. Yeah.
Need an envelope or can I keep it? So we'll just give you the voucher. Then you can do the next one. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah so much. Next, we have a gift voucher from Salon 21. There's a gift voucher to the value of 600 Rand. There's a gift voucher here to the value of 600 Rand. Titles you to a Dermaplan facial. It's for a Dermaplan facial valued at 600 Rand.
Come on, guys,
So
do this for your wives. Do this for your wives. Come on, Ismail.
You took the words out of my
Right,
mouth.
do this for your wives. Come on.
Somebody that I know just recently got
Yeah,
married,
well,
so you
let's
can
not
do
go
it for
down
your
that
wife.
line. Right, guys. What was the bid now? What was the amount?
600 Rand.
Right, 600. But I heard somebody said 650 here somewhere. Is that you? Come on, guys, do this for your wives. Right, there's a day we have it right here. There's it here. Brother says 650. Done. You know what? He's doing it for the sun that
Jazakallah.
shines.
650, where do we go? Who says, what about 650? I got a 650, now make it 7. 650, what about 7? I got a 650, now make it 7. 650 in the front, now make it 7. I got a 650, what about 7? You're supposed to be bidding also. Look at my auntie, she's looking at you. She's like, one more. 650, what about 7? Negative 650, now make it 7. Negative 650, what about 7? 650 Rand here for this voucher here in my hand. 700 Rand, what about 750? 700 in the front, now make it 750. I get a 700. What about 750? I get a 700. Now make it 750. It's only 100 and more than what it's worth. But all this money is going for a good cause. At the end of the day, it's not what it's worth. It's where the money is going to.
Absolutely. Come on, guys. Right? 8. Here we go.
800 and I like this. Everybody's doing my job. Let's